from.
Dude, you know what? I didn't even think about this until now, but I had said that on an episode, I should tell an actual story, an actual experience of, since we're on the topic of inebriation and altered states of, that I should tell a DMT experience.
You haven't done that, have you?
I have not actually, I've never actually said any of my personal experiences or anything like that. I've just referenced it on the show. And I thought, I was like, you know what? I was like thinking about the last experience I had. And I was like, that would probably be just talking about that experience. And then maybe obviously would bridge into maybe a few other experiences or whatever, but nothing as specific, would be probably an interesting topic. Because it's something I know a good bit about, and I do think it's pretty damned interesting. So
is this the most recent?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, dimethyltryptamine, DMT, is produced in the brain, in the lungs, and somewhere else in the body.
The penis.
Oh, in the liver. So it's theorized, but they think it actually exists most in the lungs before they thought the pineal gland. But I don't know that that's necessarily hard fact, but it's generally thought of as that. And it also is believed that back in the day we had more active pineal glands, that over the years they've become more calcified and used less. And therefore it's almost kind of like an ancient art of activating your pineal gland. Some studies and practices call it milking your pineal gland.
Yeah.
And
like your prostate.
There are parallel experiences to the DMT experience that can be had in near-death experiences. When they did clinical studies on DMT and people who had near-death experience, there's a lot of parallels in what they experience. DMT is the active...
Like a euphoric...
tunneling.
Yeah.
You see things like sometimes you feel like you see other beings. Sometimes you feel like you understand life. Sometimes you feel like you watch yourself die, like an out-of-body experience. You leave your body. You feel like you're flying through space. These are things that are common in near-death experience. Your loved ones kind of take you in and explain certain things to you, etc. Except dreaming is also theorized to be caused by DMT release and production. And it's like, I would say these near-death experiences, and then also different types of meditation and yoga. You get into these headspaces and people would for lack of a better word, they should have a communal description. And most people would say they're all DMT-like experiences. It would be like saying fighting is an adrenaline experience. It's not the same adrenaline rush every time, but there's an obvious thing. Well,
there's a correlation between
yes,
things that spike an adrenaline rush.
It's in every it's in every mammal theorized, and it's in a lot of plants, like a high percentage of plants, and there's also a good chance that it's in everything or can be produced in everything, and we've just only discovered it in these things. Like it comes in from all sorts of barks, different animals. They excrete a certain type of it from toads. It actually is tryptamine is in mushrooms. They convert into a tryptamine, and it's like a DMT, or it's a type of DMT in the bloodstream. It's just a much smaller level.
Yeah.
So all of these things are paralleled to the DMT experience. It's also in ayahuasca and an ancient brew called soma. It's at least thought to be that Hindus used to drink, which is a tea. But ayahuasca is a thing they do in Peru, which is actually a ceremonial, sacred ritual thing. And you drink this tea. It's like a 3-day experience. You do like a purge. You fast.
Puke your guts out for a while, and then
you go through this journey, and that's apparently more singular, and like you have time to settle in. And DMT is like on a scale of intensity, they say about 3 or 4 times more intense as ayahuasca, but it lasts maybe 5 to 10% length. Like it only lasts, if that, it only lasts.
So what would be, oh, never mind. You were getting ready to say.
So here's where it gets interesting for the experienced tripper. Somebody who's done it enough times and has explored kind of like other parallels, like yoga, meditation. when I try to stay in a trip, if you could imagine that meditation could lift you to the level of openness in your mind to experience similar things that this drug DMT can do, then similarly, you can use those tools to extend and stay in your experience. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, draw from your experiences and your knowledge, and if I need to do this to be here, this is what I can do, this is what I'm going to do, and just kind of keep it rolling.
It's like if you were lumped into a 15-minute meditation state where you had been just to the peak level of meditation, you could potentially continue to stay there, right? So like if you were to do DMT for the first time, it would probably last 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes before you snap out of it and we're like, whoa, dude, what the hell? And then everything would start to normalize really quickly. And it's kind of like a lucid dream. A lot of times the second you realize it's happening, you wake right up.
Yeah, you wake up.
So there's an art of being able to stay in it and to fight letting go. And it's a very abstract thing to explain, just like people have difficulty explaining it when they do it via meditation or breath work. But that's a much slower ascending process than DMT. So you don't really understand what's happening, but you learn how to let go in the process because you have to.
But it's a quick hit.
Yeah, dude,
so
it's just so fast. It's just explosive, dude.
However you ingest it, it just hits you right off the bat, and there's no build up to it. It's just like if you, I guess, like rip a bong hit of it or something. You hold it in, blow out, and then all of a sudden you are just in the zone. Right.
So essentially, here's an experience. So and this kind of explains it because it was a blend of pretty much a lot of what it has to offer.
Is this just a experience?
And this is one experience.
Or your most recent?
This is one and my most recent.
Okay.
So I do my first hit and I start to feel it already, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
The quicker you can get it in the system, the more of like a good, colorful, bright experience you're going to have. It's not going to be as swampy. It's like more singular in that it's almost like starting one experience. When it takes like 5 hits or so to get there, it's almost like starting separate trips, and there's a lot going on in your head and it's not as easy to figure out. But this was like very on the money. And next thing I know, dude, there's an orange glow in the room and everything is bright, man. And it is, the whole entire room is like orange, and I'm in a room and the only thing that's on is this like lava lamp in the front. Sometimes it's nice to have one thing to look at, and then you just kind of keep your focus on that while you're doing it because it's hard to stay focused. So I muster up another hit, and then I start to see like stuff like flying through the air. It kind of looks like dots and patterns and like almost like a hand. Like it looks like a hand unfolds and shit's just flying in the air with my eyes open.
Yeah.
So I do one more and I lie back and close my eyes. And I felt like I was kind of flying through outer space.
Just cruising through solar systems and shit.
Cruising through outer space. And I felt like I was there with this spirity type thing.
Just
this,
something
like, kind of female spirity type thing.
You don't know what it was. You didn't see what it was. It felt like a female presence around you.
It felt like one that I have experienced in trips before. It felt like meeting somebody that you'd know and remembering. I'm like, oh yeah. And it's kind of like you're picking up like season 2. Like, oh, I forgot about that show. Now it's all coming back to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like you remember because it's in your long-term memory, but you can't really pull that shit out easily. It's in the deep storage.
So it happens when you drink.
So we're having like a conversation, man. And next thing I know, we're talking about really weird things. Like I'm asking it questions I'm not even asking. We're like discussing stuff that I'm not even thinking of, but it's coming out of me and you're not actually talking.
Is it like subconscious shit coming out of your subconscious?
And it seems like you're having a conversation. I was asking it who I was, and then I asked it if it liked me, and it was laughing. And it was like, and I was like acknowledging that it was like really extraordinary. And it kind of like patted me on the back. And it's like, well, we're kind of like pals. You're not really you're not really above or lower. We're just kind of pals.
Yeah,
and I'm
just
like
equals.
And, dude, it's weird. And every time as time passes, you're not now you're not in outer space. Now you're in some pink room. Your eyes are closed. You're like out, but you're in some pink room, and it's like, as it's talking to you, you're seeing dreamlike states like on top of it. You can see like, if I like, it's almost like focusing in on like 8 different things at once. There's like layers in the room that you're of your eyes, and you can like, some of it looks like shapes that are kind of like expressing things and maybe going to the music. Well, anyway, it was telling me that it liked me and that it knew me.
That's good.
And that, of course, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Is kind of the impression it was giving me.
So would you, and like all fucking around aside and like all, would you say it kind of felt like a guardian angel type thing?
Well, the thing is, if I had never experienced it before, I would have called it God. But I've experienced it enough times, and I've met shit that reminds me like this.
And I'm taking all religion out
but I
of
mean,
it.
that's what it would have had to feel like. It felt like something that knew everything about me. I would have assumed, I mean, maybe that's just because of the stigma of knowing that we describe stuff as God.
Yeah.
This thing was, at the very least, of a nature that seemed infinite, and things seemed different. You are not, there's not a physical presence to things, and the way you're communicating is very open.
Yeah.
Like if there's an emotion in the room, you feel it gazillion fold, and it's expressive and it's vibrant and it's bouncing off the walls and super fast. At its fingertips, there will be little shapes doing this, and the next thing you know, dude, it catches your attention and makes you stare at like a little cube for a while. And you realize you're playing like a mini game. It wants to see what you can do. It's like showing you stuff and judging your reaction, and you don't even realize you're doing it.
Really?
And this has happened multiple times. And this time I remembered, I'm like, damn it, I'm playing like a fucking Mario Party mini game is what it feels like.
That's what I was thinking too. That's what I was equating
like
it to it in my head.
It's a simple mini game. It's like, there's 3 objects.
Like
it's
you got to trace the crown.
It almost reminds you of the game of where they cover up the seashell with like a ball, and then which one's it
the
under?
Shell game.
The shell game.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds you of shit like that, but like Mario Party-esque. But that's like, so that blip happens. And then I'm in another place with like another thing. So now my eyes kind of open up. And the room.
Like physically.
Because I'm starting to see things. I'm barely able to tell. I'm like seated up in like a seated like meditation type position. And I'm seeing things that are in the room, but it's not in the room. You know what I mean?
So physically your eyes open up and you're having
because I'm looking at the
hallucinations.
lava lamp and I'm looking at stuff now in the room, and I start to like laugh a little. And the trip starts to get really lively and silly, man. Like it starts having fun with you. It's like it's like dancing. The room's dancing at you. The whole fucking room is like there's something either in it or pieces of it are dancing, but it's like wherever the air is, there's other shit. And you're just watching it dance and smile, and then it's letting you control what happens. So I start thinking about like an emotion, and it like livens up, and it like gets, I think of like fun or love, and it gets passion, it gets whatever, and it gets so lively and like
that's a good thing. That's a positive of it.
Right. So, but this isn't something that happens every time. I just know I've come into that headspace before. And I mean, this is all in a span of maybe 15 minutes. Because I can stay in about 15 to 20 if I'm trying to
that's kind of like the average, like 10 to 15 minutes.
I would say the average is like 5 to 8 minutes. And then if you're determined or if you're very like trying to let go. And that's the other thing. So then I'm kind of doing yoga. And if I close my eyes and focus on certain parts of my body, it turns different colors and looks like a different type of creature, almost like folding in and of itself. Like cellular, but like there's like a bunch of little people and beings like kind of like swallowed by each other and just kind of like all in flux.
Like kind of like silly putty, how you can like fold it over and just keep making folds like that.
Yes.
I'm not fucking with you or like trying to be funny.
No,
I'm just,
you're right. Yeah, I guess so.
Trying to equate it to something that.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain. But yeah, something like that, like it's circling into itself and it's hard to you're looking at it like you're gonna be able to explain it and remember it. But dude, there are not words to explain the way this shit moves and acts, and you get it in the moment. You understand. You're like, yeah, I get this.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then you're like, no, I fucking didn't. And you have aha moment after aha moment. Like you get things about life. Like I don't want to parallel into different experiences, but to wrap this one up, then I was doing like a yoga stretch or two. And when I would do a different position, the color would change. So I would have a purpley one for like my back. When I was stretching my back, it's like a dark purple.
Wait.
And then when I'm like stretching my neck and my head and doing breathing different ways, it's getting yellowy and orangey.
While that's happening, are you inside of the trip or you're just doing it?
That's with like my eyes closed. So I'm like, I'm literally doing yoga, like kind of coming down as far as like, I'm no longer in a whole nother, but I still am. Now it feels like you're kind of inside yourself in a weird way. This is like beyond, like you start off, you meet this fucking being. It reminds you, it like introduces itself. You have like your conversation.
Yeah.
It does some stuff with you. And then you're kind of, sometimes you go even further than that. Sometimes you start to come back and usually you get what would be described as like what you would imagine the most acid or something like that could do in about 2 minutes.
So is that the standard for a trip? Like you're going to meet this being?
This one was more well-rounded as far as like it touched on a lot of notes. When
do they stay positive?
Yeah, I mean, I
like if
positive in the long run for sure.
If you had to look back and all like the trips that you've gone on and the trips that you've seen people do and the stories that you've heard people tell, they stay pretty positive.
I'll tell it like this. I've done it a lot of times. The reason I did it is because I had been super interested in it for years, man. A lot of people believe a lot of nutty shit, and it's just what they believe.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have anything I believed, and I still don't believe anything. When shit is real, it's real. And DMT lived up to the hype. I had hope and faith that it would be 10% of what it is. And it totally blew itself out of the water, and it never ceases to amaze me. Could you do it into the ground? I'm sure. But because the experience is so short, if you have a bad experience, my number one recommendation would be that if you try it again and it still kind of touches those notes, stop for a while.
Yeah.
Stop until you really want to do it again.
Let it breathe.
And you might find out that in like a month's time is all it would take for you to be really, ready or whatever. But don't do it if you recently had a bad one. You're worried about having a bad,
so it sounds like it's like any hallucinogen. If you go into it,
well,
not any hallucinogen, but if you go into it with a negative headspace, then you're going to.
Here's the difference. If you do enough DMT, you're not going into your headspace. You're going into a DMT headspace, which is distinctly different and more extraordinary. It feels like dying sometimes. Sometimes you see the movie of your life. You see all of your moments, all of your accomplishments. You like look at your life. You come to terms with it and you move on from that. And then you're in a whole nother place.
Yeah.
You're like a fucking flying being. And then, or whatever you are, or you just meet some shit that feels like it's zipping by at like light speed, and then you get it to stop just for it to explain to you what you are and who you are, and then it zips on by like it goes back to doing its job.
Because it's definitely something that I'm interested in, but
it's nothing like other hallucinogens.
I've had some, I'm not going to say bad, but less than positive experiences with other stuff. Like, I've definitely smoked a lot of weed and then just like laid in bed and contemplated life and been like, what the fuck am I doing? That kind of shit.
Yes. So
and then I've eaten mushrooms where like it has its peaks and valleys. Like you're at one moment you're on top of the world, and then you start thinking about something else, and you're as low can be.
Right, because that's you thinking.
Yeah.
You're given time. So when you say it's all about your mindset going into it, what your anticipation of DMT does not matter if you do enough of it. If you do enough to just completely let go of yourself and just like it totally obliterates your consciousness for a minute.
Yeah.
If you allow it to do that, you're no longer you. It doesn't even matter what you think of it. Your life isn't even there in that moment.
Okay.
Like, and it's a good feeling, I think. I think it's a good experience to have. And it gives you a sense of like refreshed, like you feel invigorated for life. It almost makes you kind of feel strong purpose. Like it almost leaves you, and this is like the nature of killing everything that exists, is you'll put back together one piece. Like the first few things you think of as you're coming back are very important to you. You've like cleared all of your thoughts, all of your subconscious thoughts, all those little nagging background things, all those little built up anxieties. It's gone, dude. And then you just put back together one piece. Boom, jujitsu. Boom, my girlfriend. Boom, family. Like and then that's all that exists, and that's all that you are. And then you start to build your life back together. And it kind of forces you, it kind of really teaches you the last few things you let go before going into a trip, and the first few things that you build yourself back together with, man, that really gives you a sense of who you are and what makes you, or at least the driving torch in that moment.
Okay.
And I will say this, unlike with mushrooms and acid especially, dude, I would never recommend anyone do acid. I would be like, if you want to, it's your choice. I would never recommend it.
I've never done it. I've always kind of wanted to do it.
I think a first experience, if you don't have much experience with anything else, you're going to enjoy an acid experience. Because it's extraordinary. Dude, if you've never tripped, tripping's fun.
It is.
Nobody's
fun.
going to have a bad first trip unless they're like a kid or stupid, or like, if you're a good person, if you're remotely a good person, you're probably not going to have a bad first trip. Now, I will say this, it is not, the big difference is acid or mushrooms, you could go like this: amazing trip, good trip, amazing trip, good trip,
terrible
awful,
trip,
worst trip ever, trip monster. Yeah, like the most anxious feeling. But I will tell you this, the couple times I've done it to the point where maybe it was like too much, I come back feeling so glad to be back. And once I've experienced a work day or something, I'm like, man, but I haven't done it since then. Like my last mushroom trip, I was like, you know what? Not unless friends want to do it. Not unless I really want to do this. I'm done experimenting with it. I've experienced enough of it. I'm good with it.
Mushrooms are fun if you keep it. Hey, stop. Mushrooms are fun if you keep it low. Like, don't eat a lot.
See, I'm a little different. I don't like the headspace of tripping but not tripping. Like, I need stimulation by the experience. So I don't like a low experience. As far as like that goes, that makes me anxious.
The last time I ate mushrooms, I ate like a gram, maybe a gram and a half. I got an eighth, and I just eyeballed it in half.
Yeah,
and it was a good time. It was just a body trip. I could still walk outside and function like a normal person and experience the world around me, but in a different headspace, but not like
right
to where I'm seeing shit walking down the street and it's going to freak me the fuck out. It was just an enjoyable thing to do. It was just a fun afternoon, and it lasted maybe 4 to 6 hours, and it wasn't like a whole fucking night.
Here's a way to compare like what you can get from the experiences. So like if you do mushrooms and you're out in nature and you're like just at one with everything, you might see some like birds kind of flying. Yeah. You're looking at the trees, you're seeing them move from far away. You can just breathe in the air a different way. You look at the moss on the rock differently. Like you see life in everything. And that's a beautiful experience, right?
Dude, because when I did it, the last time I did it, I was living in the city, and I just, like I said, I got an eighth, split it, eyeballed it in half, tried to like mix up stems and caps, make it pretty even,
Right.
and then waited for it to really kick in, and then just walked around Patterson Park in the city.
Yeah.
It was a fucking fun day.
It's an experience for sure.
Because I had like 3 or 4 days to myself.
But see that, so that is specifically like, that's what people know is tripping. Dude, when you do DMT, not only is the tree actually going to be alive, there's like magical, dude, you're talking magic. I've had the moments where the trip goes, oh, you think that's impressive? Watch this. I'm about to stop the fucking music. You're about to feel like life flashes before your eyes. This lyric at this moment, and your dog is going to bark and run up to you right now, and everything is going to be as crazy as you could ever imagine. Wait for the most beautiful moment of your life. Oh, wait, you thought that was cool? Watch this.
Damn.
And you're like, what the fuck, man? Like, I could die on that moment. That is insane. I cannot believe it. But what then, to really fuck with you, it doesn't let you fully remember. I just know I have had the most magical moments, and I can carry that on with me for the rest of my life, knowing I experienced something that not only did it feel like magic, you couldn't tell me a single thing. You couldn't create something that would blow me away more than my experiences. Dude, Jesus could walk into this room right now, and I'd be like, well, that's nothing compared to a DMT trip.
So you would just hold pieces to it.
You can kind of recall.
You can hold pieces to it. You won't remember from start to end fully. You'll just walk out of it being like, oh, man,
maybe your first couple experiences, if it's just like a singular type thing. If you have a full on let go and come back, you're not going to remember it fully. No way. It's too much. It's too hard to, but you might remember specifics. And if your first few experiences, you might really remember everything. Like my first few experiences, the first time I did it up, the first time I got it to work, because it took a few tries to get it to work. I don't know. You're nervous. You don't have the right to whatever. Finally, I got it to work, and I'm in a red and blue spiraling room, and there's an elephant man. He's a man dressed in a tuxedo and had a long snout, holding a dog on a leash, nodding his head. Yeah. Or you know what he had.
Yeah. A snout.
A snout. Oh, a snout. Yeah. I didn't even get it. I'm like, wait, yeah, I said snout.
Yeah, it's a fucking snout. The elephant man had a snout.
So it's this elephant man in a tux dancing to the music, and he's pointing his cane and he's pointing at me. He's like, yeah, this is it. And he points, dude. And he's like a cool motherfucker. And he had a little dog thing on a leash, and everything was hyperactive.
Just a well-dressed.
And bouncing off the walls. It was like a shape world that he lived in, and it was like a dome. We were in it was his room, and there was like a chair, but it was in a hyperspace type thing, man, a whole nother dimension. And he was just dancing, made me feel good and like silly, and I laughed a lot. I couldn't believe it. You can't, every time it's like, I just can't believe this is an experience that can be had.
Yeah, a manufactured experience, because if you think about it, it is manufactured. I mean, it's coming from something, or it's maybe manufactured isn't the right word to use, but it's an induced experience. Like,
yeah,
you got to do something to get there.
But you could do it through extreme breathing. You could do it through, like the people who take holotropic breathing to the furthest, the people who take that, whatever that style of yoga is, I'll think of it in a second. Kundalini yoga. When you take it to the extreme, people have parallel things. It's just shorter glimpses of it. Or maybe they do. When you're really good at that stuff, people tap into that headspace. That's what I was saying. Or near death, all these things like, or in the middle of the night, some people who experience lucid dreaming, sleep paralysis, that is in ways, it's more like sleep paralysis sounds like a spooky DMT.
I've experienced lucid dreaming. I don't think that I've experienced sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Because sleep paralysis is where like you think you're sleeping, but you kind of wake up, but your body can't move, right? Something like that.
Yeah, but like the visuals that come along with it, sometimes you feel like these beings are like looking down on you.
It's
and
more
like their arm.
it's more like demonic.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. Anything that I've ever read or looked into about, it seems like it's more of a demonic type, or more of an evil type thing.
I don't know. This is purely street lingo. This is street talk here.
Dizzy street talk.
I would imagine like lucid dreaming is more like when we think of a dream, and then sleep paralysis is a similar thing that feels more like a nightmare.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when we have really good dreams, they're amazing, but we never feel trapped in them. And then oftentimes when we have fucking nightmares, where you're aware of it, you want to get the hell out. So I think there's like they remind me of each other.
Very similar. There's a parallel to it. Lucid dreaming is supposed to be where you can control where your dream goes, and is like more of a positive type
That
thing.
is an advanced form of lucid dreaming. Initially, lucid dreaming would just be the ability to wake up in your dream, the ability to actually move around and control everything. And really, that is like advanced. That's like you're an elite level lucid dreamer. The first step is finding ways to wake up in your dream. And people who lucid dream actively also do things that induce sleep paralysis. You lie on your back, you can do a series of breathing, and you like start to lose feeling from the floor up, like your feet all the way up.
Yeah.
And then you're just boom, plopped in a lucid dream. Like if you ever lie on your back and you feel like, when you lie on your back, if you lay down for a long time on your back and just breathe, you will slip into a lucid dream or a form of sleep paralysis. It's just you're not caught there the way. Like some people feel trapped, like they're yelling, trying to get people to wake them up, and they can't.
Yeah.
And they're like scared to death.
I haven't experienced the
That doesn't
paralysis.
happen on DMT. That doesn't happen on DMT.
Yeah.
Dude, usually it's just like people see a bunch of crazy shapes and then they wake up out of it and they feel amazing. They love it. They don't really have any huge takeaways at first, unless some people do. I mean, some people see like loved ones that died. It's tender, dude. It's touching. If you open it, it's a very touching experience. It's positive.
The positivity aspect of it intrigues me.
It's very positive. Everybody I know I know a lot of people who've done it. I hear a lot of people talk about it. Man, it's a very positive experience, I think. I would sign my name to that more than any other thing, as far as like, I believe in it. Yeah, I'll sign my name to it. You do it, you're gonna get a good experience.
You're gonna have a fun time.
Yeah, I would recommend it among everything that I would recommend. I think it's
I think you've sold me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very life-changing for a good way. There's nothing else I could think of that is as extreme. If there's anything stronger, there's a quote by Terrence McKenna, this guy who did a lot of like philosophizing about it and experience. He's like talking about how DMT is undoubtedly the most extraordinary thing he's ever experienced and all this stuff. And he goes on, if there's anything stronger, I don't even want to know about it. And I'm kind of with him. I jokingly say, like, if there's anything great, don't even tell me. I don't even want to know.
That makes sense.
I don't have any interest. I'm good. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, if you're experiencing something so powerful.
Oh, dude.
And so like emotionally and physically powerful, why would you want to know what else is out there?
It's enough. For this reality, it's enough. It's enough. It's enough of a thing to experience out of this world, and it's extraordinary enough and above you enough, and gives you a push for this life. Like oftentimes, I'm reminded that this life is important, and it's all I have. Like I feel like I get a sense of that when I'm on it. That no matter what other stuff is, this is me.
It's not like an interdimensional type thing. It's like it lets you know what you're doing now, who you are, what you're doing, where you're going. It just kind of shines the light on you in this moment.
It can. I've had that thought before. It can go a bunch of different directions, but it can definitely go that direction. Oftentimes, I remember coming down, thanking it for the experience I've had, because I couldn't believe what it was trying to, or what it showed me in that time.
Yeah.
I feel like I've communicated with something else almost always. unless you don't do enough or you can't get it to like work. Like if you have a minimal experience, then it's different. But if you get a good bit of it in you and you feel like you had a big experience, I feel like I communicate with something else. It feels relatively spiritual. Oftentimes it does weird things to my body and makes me like crack my back and let my jaw hang lower. And then like
slack jaw.
It sounds like it does something to my throat,
dude. Do you speak? Like, what's the deal? Are you going to sit there and just like start talking gibberish?
Most people don't. Some people might like slur a little.
Or just like make like guttural noises like, ugh.
You can. Yeah, you might make that. You might laugh. You might be able to say something like Jesus Christ, or like like you might be able to talk, but you really couldn't hold it together for a conversation.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends. I have a strong ability to talk through things, dude.
You have a strong ability to talk.
I could talk through a DMT trip. I could do it and describe it as it's happening and not lose it. I really believe so.
Would you be willing to record this?
Sure. I mean, I definitely would be willing to.
I mean, we don't have to.
I would do it.
You've already said enough.
It would be interesting, yeah.
We could like, if it's only like 15 minutes or something, we could do like you were talking about before. I think we have an email address set up.
Yes.
If we could record something, audio and video, and if you're able to talk through it, if it's only 15 minutes, what the fuck? We could do the shit. And
if I wasn't able to talk, it would only be for about 2 or 3 minutes. 4 minutes tops of really being, and it would be worth it. If I was out of it for a few minutes and not able to talk, it would be worth it. Like it would be, that's a big experience to capture. Because I usually could probably talk through it.
I'm wondering how prevalent is like...
Here we go. Or what were you going to say? How
no,
prevalent
I was going to say how prevalent are these videos on like YouTube or something?
I don't. You can definitely find some, but it all depends on the person. Like, see, I'm an interesting case because, I definitely like chose this path in a way and appreciate it in a way that not everyone does. I'm not going around fucking around with other stuff. I'm not treating it like a party experience. And I intellectually
it's a spiritual, not necessarily spiritual, but
I came to it to figure it out, and it's kind of a paradox. You really can't, but I come away happy to have experienced what I've experienced with it, and I was very much looking to get out of it as much as it was willing to show me, as far as that type of mind-opening, extraordinary, like blow your mind with some real shit. I wanted to see some real shit. Yeah. Not go to some psychic palm reading. Yeah. Not
saying like, this is your death line. This is where you're going to be in 15 years. This is your money shit.
In 15 years of practicing this style of meditation, you might have one experience that seems transcendent. No, I'm talking hard fucking evidence, and boy, has it delivered. This is crazy. This is a short experience. So after my last breakup with Jen, I had an experience on my 30th birthday. And next thing I knew, I was flying in this playground-like thing of things that seemed like me, but we were all like flying blue and pink and green. I didn't know what I looked like, but we were like these flying... what would look like a mixture of like an old school dinosaur, bird, lizard, spirit thing, like kind of human, but not really. And everyone had its own color. And it was like a playground. We were hanging out like kids at recess. And I knew what was going on. And I was like, oh yeah, this again is kind of like, but I had never seen shit like that. But it felt like a familiar place. And I'm hanging out and having a good time, and it's crazy. I'm only half cognizant. I really don't even remember life at that point. And I see this like pink one, and it was Jen. And I'm like, and it triggered me. It like woke me up a little.
You kind of like knew.
And I was like, fuck, here I am in this place that feels like it's kind of like before and after, or kind of this infinite place of my life.
Yeah.
And here's this person I just broke up. Like, we're no longer together, and here she is in this world. Like, that made me feel like this whole life was going to be spent with like her being a pivotal role in my life and like a part of this almost spirit space where it was like I was either part of my purpose in this life was either to be tormented over the fact that we were no longer together
or to accept it.
Whatever it was. No, it was kind of like showing me that she was a permanent fixture in my subconscious or headspace in a way that seemed, but it was not due to me. It was due to spirit world or wherever the fuck we were. Because in that moment, that's what it felt like, right? And well, what wound up happening was the second I thought that, all my other like friends in this place ran over, and some of them were kind of tiny, and they like knocked me over and they start like digging at my body, dude, like digging at me deep into my stomach. And I'm like looking down, and it's like crazy, but it's like positive. They're like, no, you're okay. You're okay. Like really like high pitchy type voices. It seems cartoony. Yeah, dude. And they're excited. They like me. They really like me. And they're like playing with me. And then a big one, a really wise kind of figure I hadn't seen yet came up and stuck its hand deep into my stomach and lifted up this ball of energy. And with it, the weight of every negative everything that had been attached to this feeling of being in post-relationship was lifted, dude. And it was holding it in its hand. And I was left with the most euphoric calmness. And I hadn't felt that level of comfort in a while. Wow. And I was just looking at it like, oh my God. And it goes like, and this is like some wise ass shit, dude. Like I never thought of this kind of stuff. And it's like, you see this? And I was like, said yes, but you don't actually say, but it's like telepathy. Do you see this? And I'm like, yeah, man. And it's like, this is the power, or this is power that you give somebody over you.
No shit.
That's what it said. It said, this is power you're letting somebody else have over you.
It seems like some untapped subconsciousness that you wouldn't be able to come to on your own.
It would be very, very hard. It's a lost art. It is very much a lost art. It's all over cave art. It's all over ancient culture. It looks like Egypt. It looks like Hindu and Buddhist culture. It looks like ancient Native American culture. It looks like their artwork. It looks like the style of Native American artwork that, it looks like cave masks. It looks tribal. It looks jungly, half animal, half humans. That's the look of it. Everybody sees it. And like weird pyramid-like hieroglyphs, you see language that looks like hieroglyph type stuff. But not like alien, like hyper. And that shit swirls around a room. You might see blocks of text. And you get it in the moment, dude. You will stare at it and look at it and understand.
Like you understand what's going on. Like
I've had conversations that sounds like, I don't know what I'm doing, dude.
And you're just like,
I'm not actually saying anything, but we're communicating in my head. And it sounds like weird gurgled language. And there are times the music will stop for seemingly 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Like it'll be in the driver's seat of everything. And if it wants to change the music, a song you know so well will sound like a whole nother song. And it like takes it, but it sounds amazing. You don't even know what's going on. It is unreal, man. The one thing you will not come back saying is, it wasn't that big of a deal.
I just got high.
I wouldn't say that, dude. I'm an experienced junkie in that way. I like wild stuff. I like extreme stuff. This is the experience for me, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not enough time for it to go bad. I can handle the intensity of it. I like the intensity of it, and it's positive. It's light, and it's like I don't know. So that is all of that about that. I figured it'd be a good one to talk about it because I did have that experience, I guess a couple weeks ago.
No, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's you're a good salesman for it, I guess.
Yeah, and I figured it would make it because I've mentioned it, and if I ever mention it again, I won't mention it all the time, and I only want to put it out there so much, but we don't have a lot of listeners.
Yeah.
And if we do get a ton of listeners, then it'll be worth it. So I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I do have the fortune of nothing I do as far as like my income or whatever. If anything, like even the Boys Latin thing, if something was to ever happen, it's only so much money.
It's not going to ruin you when it comes down to it. If somebody were to cancel you
I know.
and fall into that type of bullshit.
It
It's
would
not
just
like,
open up the door for new opportunities.
Yeah,
I'm totally fine with whatever happens.
it's going to take a little bit of money out of your pocket, but it's not going to fucking bury you.
No, yeah, it's really not a big deal. I guess that's it on that talk. But I get to put it into a final conclusion.
Yeah. What's your final
You
thoughts,
asked about
Jerry
positive
Springer?
or negative. I won't say that there's never times that it's a little scary or a little bit of this, but it's not like you would anticipate. And in my opinion, it would take a very long string of foreshadowing, bad experiences after bad experiences for you to really feel like you've had a
bad
traumatic
time.
experience.
Yeah.
Because I kind of forget the ones that felt kind of bad. I don't have a strong memory of them. I couldn't tell you a specific story.
And the bad trips with hallucinogens, they stay with you.
Yeah. One time I got into something I would describe as a loop. It kept like looping the same experience over and over. Like the same line in the song I would go on repeat.
Yeah.
I would go through the same thought in my head and it would start over. Like Groundhog's Day, but for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen a couple times, I think. But dude, it's like I barely remember. There's no trauma to be held. Like I could definitely see how people hold trauma for their life from bad acid trips.
You don't come out of it with any kind of anxiety or like, oh man, this is what I saw, this is what I thought, this was some negative shit. I was present for this, and this is now a part of my life for the rest of my life.
Yeah, dude, even if it's a little like intimidating in a way or like spooky, most people would say they're happy to have had the experience. And maybe it's like thrilling, like, I don't know. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like overall it's a positive experience. It's something to not be feared and maybe not abused. Or maybe abused. It sounds like it.
I don't know anybody who has abused it. And I know a lot of people who kind of could do as much of it as they want to.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like anybody really wants to do it to the point where it's as destructive as like something that you hear like they do, like MDMA and ketamine are two things that they do a lot of clinical studies on treating depression, PTSD with. But I know a lot of people who abuse MDMA, street name, Molly or ecstasy.
You're not going to do it on a Saturday and then be craving it Sunday morning.
Yeah. Now, do I know people like I know somebody who committed suicide and I knew they had done DMT. I didn't know them well. Somebody told me this about them.
Yeah.
But they also were doing heroin.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's
they were
just
a fuck up.
That's coincidental.
And
if
you give somebody who's fucked up and see, like, if you give somebody who's fucking up hardcore DMT, they might really want to kill themselves because they're fucking up hardcore.
Yeah.
Like they already probably hate themselves in a way, but I would say it would show them a gentler side before it showed them a harsher side.
Okay.
It would like give you that warning and it would show you some light and be like, look, life's worth living for. Make some adjustments, try and make a positive thing, try and be passionate, try and be a good person. And I think if you were to continue to do DMT while not obeying or respecting it, it might eventually be like, look, motherfucker, you ain't going to smoke me and get away with this shit. I am going to let you know what the fuck is up. and I'm going to make you feel real small, real quick, and make you know that you are fucking up. I respect it too much for it to need to show me that.
To even get to that point. Yeah,
dude, I would if it ever needed to realign me, so be it. Whatever. You know better than me. That's kind of how I see it. God, clearly, you know better than me. You know everything.
It's fucking
okay.
It's crazy, regardless of the I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like mushrooms, acid, DMT. It's crazy how those substances can alter your body and can alter your mind, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. It's just it's nuts to me, dude, how strong something like that can be.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely.
It's so crazy.
It doesn't, dude, as much as you're fathoming it right now, it's not even 1% of the amount you would think that after experiencing it.
Oh, I believe it. No, I mean, I totally believe it. And I'm not, everything you say and everything that you've told, I don't discredit any of it.
Like it's like almost like how much could you even understand an orgasm without experiencing one?
Yeah, no, that's a
but
good.
It's that time so much.
Yeah, without being crude. I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty good analogy.
It is an existential orgasm.
Yeah.
It's like the best one ever. It's tantric and all that shit. It is a spiritual orgasm, dude. It's out of this world, of another chemical balance. But is there anything else we want to talk about?
No, I think we covered